Hello students, today we will continue with the second lecture on sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Let us start with pollination. What is pollination? So it is the process by which pollen grains are transferred from anther to stigma. There are three types of pollination: autogamy, geitonogamy and genogamy. In autogamy, we find the same flower and the same plant, as in the case of rice and wheat. In geitonogamy, we have different flowers, but the plant is the same one, as in the case of sunflower. And in genogamy, which is the most favorable one, we find that the plants are also different and the flowers are different too. And the classical examples are date palm and papaya. Now let us turn our gaze towards pollinators or pollinating agents. So pollinating agents are such kind of agents, or pollinators are such kind of agents. They help to facilitate the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma to ensure pollination. They may be abiotic, as in the case of wind and water, or they may be biotic, as in the case of insects, birds, bats, etc. Now let us discuss them one by one. The pollination by wind is known as anemophily. Here the flowers are inconspicuous. That means they are very small, almost invisible, and the pollen grains are small. They are produced in large number. They are dry also, and they are produced in large number because most of them are swayed away by the wind, and they also almost become futile. Only some of them reach the stigma. So the stigma is feathery here because it has to trap the pollen grains. The pollination by water is known as hydrophily. Here, two types of pollination takes place: on the surface of the water and below the surface of the water. On the surface of the water in the case of Felisneria, and under the water or under submerged, or you can say submerged water, it's Justera. There are some biotic agents also which help in pollination. The pollination by insects is known as entomophily. By birds, it is known as ornithophily. And there are some other animals such as bats or other animals too. They also help in pollination. So here the flowers are being to attract the insects, etc. So they are brightly colored, large, and they have nectar. And the pollen grains are sticky. So pollination and the pollinator are an integral part of fertilization. Now let us move towards the pollen-pistil interaction. What is pollen-pistil interaction? So it is the interaction, or you can say biochemical communication, between a pollen and a stigma, which results either in the acceptance or rejection of the pollen by the stigma. If the stigma accepts the pollen lands on the stigma, it absorbs the moisture over the stigma, becomes active and germinates, and pollen tube develops from that. The pollen tube moves through the style and enters the ovary. It enters the ovary from the micropyle, and two male gametes are released in the embryo sac. One of them fuse with the egg cell and form zygote. The other one fuses with the secondary nucleus, which is diploid in nature. Now we have three nuclei here, one from pollen grain and two from the secondary nucleus. And as a result of that, this fusion is known as triple fusion, which ultimately results in the formation of triploid pin, that is primary endosperm nucleus. Now double fertilization is a unique feature of angiosperms. It is the combination of syngamy and triple fusion, and it ensures the proper development of endosperm and the embryo. Now let us discuss about the post-fertilization events. The triploid pin undergoes successive mitotic division, and finally it forms endosperm. The endosperm, the sperm is nutritive in nature and it provides nutrition to the developing embryo or embryo. The zygote also undergoes successive mitotic divisions and it results in the formation of embryo. The embryo may be monocot, as in the case of P, as in the case of maize, and it may be dicot, as in the case of P. Dicot means having two cotyledons, monocot means having one cotyledon, and that particular cotyledon is known as scuttle. Now, what happens afterwards? The ovules develop into seeds and the integuments or the coverings they develop into seed coat. The ovary develops into fruit and all the accessory parts they vanish away, they disappear. So all this development are or this process are quite necessary for the formation of plant. We will continue with this topic in the next lecture. Until then, it's goodbye to all of you.